All right, I have 5:30 on the clock in the back, which we'll treat as the official time, even though it's a little slow. And we'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Planning Commission March 27th to order. All right, with that, I believe we have quorum. Jen, you have everything you need? Okay. For the minutes last month, I would be looking for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held on February 27th, even though it says March, February 27th, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
All right, we have a motion and a second. You can, Chris or Kelsey, you can go ahead and pick. Are there any comments, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have 5 public hearings on the agenda tonight, and we'll just go ahead and work through them right from the top. I'll make a note that these items will be heard here tonight, and then we will vote on it, and that will be a recommendation that will be forwarded to the Community Development Committee, which will meet at 5 p.m. on Monday, April 7th, in the back room in the corner over there. And so that's where you'll hear it next. They will review that and then bring that recommendation to the City Council meeting, which will be at 5 p.m. on April 8th, that's Tuesday, right here in these chambers. And that'll be for all of the items we review tonight. All right, with that, I'll go ahead and, excuse me. I swallowed half my snack down my lungs a little while ago, I apologize. I'll go ahead and suspend this meeting and call to order a public hearing to give consideration to rezoning property from I1 Light Industrial District to I2 Heavy Industrial District at 983 Richwood Road for the Detroit Lakes Development Authority. Larry, will you bring us up to speed?
Yes, this is a request by the Detroit Lakes Development Authority to rezone the former Cleveland Farm from I-1 Light Industrial to I-2 Heavy Industrial. And the purpose for changing the zoning is so that they can issue a lease to mine the gravel off of that site to bring it down to a lower level. And we are expecting to issue requests for proposals for that, and the project will take multiple years to accomplish because there's quite a bit of material on that site. The Development Authority would like to do this for 2 reasons. It's better to have someone mine the material out of there rather than pay to have it hauled away. It seems that that would be more prudent, and they also feel like this resource should be better used in road construction and so forth, rather than just putting businesses on top of it and having it lost forever. So the other issue is what's going to happen to the property when it's done, and the intent is to rezone it again back to I-1 Light Industrial because of its location. We would like to make that binding, but we can't bind future councils, so we have to just list it as an intent to rezone it to I-1 because a future council can't be bound in that way.
Okay, thank you, Larry. All right, at this time, I'll go ahead and take any public comments on this. If you have something you'd like to say to the commission, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Good afternoon, I'm Dan Holsgrove. I live at 1604 Legion Road in Detroit Lakes here.
Okay.
And I have a small development just south of this, on the other side of the street, Terry Street. And the concern I had was that in the description of R2, it says that R2 is not compatible with residential neighborhoods. And we have a new neighborhood going in over there. And I'm surrounded by existing neighborhoods on Broadway and on Richwood. And as Larry brought up, you know, if it is I-1, that's fine, that's what it is. But when it goes to Industrial 2, and the chance that it could turn into anything, a concrete plant could go in there and run 24/7, or any kind of heavy machinery, you know, that would be unacceptable. And since you can't bind the future board to revert this back to I-1, I would stand opposed to having it zoned I-2. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate your comments. All right, would anyone else like to address the commission on this issue?
Yeah. Larry, I had a hard time, well, first of all, Larry Lighthizer, 1210 Richwood Road. Hello, everybody. Larry, I had a hard time hearing you. It's I-1, you want to rezone it as I-2, but then revert back?
Yes, that's correct.
Why and when would you revert back? Are you taking the gravel out? And
Once the gravel has been removed, our intent would be to rezone it.
Larry, can you speak directly into that mic, because you aren't picking up at all?
The intent would be to revert it back to I-1 light industrial at the time that we would plat the property
Okay.
into industrial lots.
That was one of my assumptions. If we do that, if you do that, you, them, they, I'd like to see that in writing. Because once it's rezoned to I-2, it's not as easy to revert back. At this point, it's just verbal, something I'd like to see in writing.
We can put that in writing, but all it would be is, our intent would be to do that. We can't bind a future council into that type of
Right, so
decision.
once you vote it in as I-2, and it's established as I-2, then we'd have to start this whole process over to change it back.
That is correct.
I understand. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yep.
I'd imagine if your home isn't located in this situation, you really wouldn't care what the zoning is or what's involved. But you definitely would if it was in your front or backyard. Here's some breakdowns on the difference between light and heavy industrial. And I'll breeze through this quickly, okay? Light industrial, permitted uses, packaging, certain types of manufacturing, distribution facilities, warehousing, office warehouses, and laboratories, farm equipment, implement repair services. Characteristics, low pollution levels, minimal noise, and limited environmental impact. Often located closer to residential areas. May have more stringent building codes regarding building heights, noise levels, and aesthetics. Heavy industrial zoning, permitted uses, chemical manufacturing, mining, power production, steel mills, oil refineries, large-scale processes, heavy machinery, significant environmental impacts, often located further away from residential areas, may require extensive infrastructure and land use. Potentially higher environmental impacts. I'm just gonna skim through this. Light industrials typically located in zones designated for light industrial use, which may be more integrated into mixed use or business parks. Heavy industrial, usually found in industrial zones or areas specifically designed and designated for heavy industrial use, often further from residential areas due to potential environmental and noise concerns. Zoning of that, located in heavy industrial or manufacturing zones with stricter zoning requirements and distance from residential or commercial properties. And again, if that's just the case and it's just about getting the hill off of there, then I'm kind of beating a dead horse. But I'd rather be proactive right now than reactive. In the city of Detroit Lakes' comprehensive plan, this is kind of contradictory to your own plan. Starting with page 62 of that, and this is just a couple highlights. General description of zones, and I'm just going to talk about the industrial ones. I-1 light industrial, the purpose of I-1 district is to provide for establishment of warehousing and light industrial development. I-2 heavy industrial, the purpose of I-2 is to provide for the establishment of heavy industrial and manufacturing development and use which, because of the nature of the product or character of activity, requires isolation from residential or commercial use. This is Detroit Lakes' city plan. Page 99, industrial land use goal. Number 2, maintain a high standard of industrial development, including appearance of sites, buildings, and outside storage areas. Policies, encourage site setup, get to the nuts and bolts. Policies, C and D. Industrial areas shall be adequately screened from residential areas according to city codes. Existing industrial uses and new industrial development shall not cause pollutants or contaminants to be emitted into the surrounding environment, including air, soils, groundwater, drainways, sanitary sewer or storm sewer in excess of state and federal levels. Page 111, administration goals and policies. Goal number 2, respond to the concerns and issues of Detroit Lakes residents. That's us. And maintain good communication with city residents and businesses through direct contact, open meetings, television, newsletters, outreach programs, and project bulletins. Along with remaining proactive in addressing planning issues, code enforcement, and nuisance complaints raised by the citizens and local businesses. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Is that your belief that this has been transparently carried out to the best of your abilities? What do you think that this will do to residents' property values in this area? I built my house 40 years ago, and it was agricultural. Now I'm in a light industrial park encroaching on 3 directions from me. Luckily, I have almost 8 or 9 acres, so I have some space. But, you know, Action Fab, listening to their punch presses in the evening, that doesn't bother me. But if it gets zoned heavy industrial and it doesn't revert back, that's a problem. And I can definitely appreciate it for Dan too, because he's got senior living townhouses smack dab across the street from it. And I know that there's other people, even the apartment complex further up Terry Street, rounding the curve by the soccer field. He wanted to make it to this. He was concerned about this too. So that's my concern. Once it gets classified as heavy industrial, I don't think I, as a citizen, have any recourse. And you can't give me any assurances on that, can you?
I can't. I can only say that that is our intent, and that as long as I'm here, when we bring the plat forward, I will also bring forward a request to rezone it back to I-1.
You want to
That's-
take that entire hill down, correct?
Yes. It's about 500,000 cubic yards of
No,
material.
I understand. One more question. What do you intend to do with the wetlands in the front of that property between Atkins and New Food
We
Pantry?
have no intention to do anything with the
You're
wetlands.
still gonna have those as reservoirs?
The wetlands are remaining as they are.
Okay. That's all I have. Again, I mean, on the record, I'm concerned about it changing to heavy industrial and not changing back.
Understood.
you.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate your comments. All right. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment on the rezoning, the proposed rezoning at 983 Richwood Road to heavy industrial? Any further comments? Any further comments on that rezoning? All right, hearing none, then I will close this public hearing and open it up for discussion amongst the commission.
I have a question for Larry. If we vote to change this zoning, can we put a condition in that it's strictly used for the mining of the gravel?
Hold on one second. Larry, could you, if you need to have a conversation, could you guys step out in the back?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I just want to make sure everybody's able to hear the discussion.
Can you repeat the question?
So if we vote to change the zoning to I2, can we put a condition in that it's strictly used for the mining of gravel?
No, once you rezone something, you have to take all of it with it. You can't pick and choose which items you're going to allow.
Mr. Chair and Chris, Larry, there is a conditional use piece under I2. Can we
Yes,
not
under
define it?
I2, they can't just automatically start gravel mining. They have to come in and get a conditional use permit,
Permit.
which will spell out the phases of how they're going to do that, what kinds of operations they will have on there, what their hours of operation might be, and so forth.
But prior to that, they'd have free reign of what an I2 allows.
Any permitted use.
Correct.
Yes.
Right.
But the good news is, we're not intending to sell any of this property until it's platted. We're not intending to plat until we have the gravel removed. So there isn't going to be any land sales or new businesses going in there until after the gravel mining is done. So we would have an opportunity then to rezone it back to I1 and approve a plat for that area.
Okay.
I'm sorry, can I ask a question again?
If you wouldn't mind coming up to the microphone just so we can capture it.
You probably remember me.
You seem vaguely familiar.
Are you entertaining any potential businesses as of right now or not?
We do not have any potential buyers or different
So basically, you want to
development.
get the property ready, you're gonna street and curb it, I assume, and do all that. And
Correct.
so there's no underlying agenda here other than
No.
getting the hill down.
Correct.
Okay.
And the other thing that I would say is, in the ordinance that I'm proposing for the council, I'm going to put in there that it is the intent to rezone it back to I1 once the gravel mining is complete. But that's the strongest language that we can use. It's non-binding.
Whoever makes the motion, it would be really great if you put that in the motion too. If we decide to move for this, we'll see that what comes of the discussion.
One more question. What kind of a time frame are you looking at to do the process of your excavation?
Well, my personal wish is that it gets done as soon as possible. What we're going to do is issue a request for proposals, and whoever comes in to do the work is going to tell us how fast they think they can remove that much material.
I mean, ideally, a year, 2 years?
Ideally, probably 3 years, more realistically, 5 to 7, but I don't know that for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right,
No.
thanks. Any other conversation or discussion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, Larry, when you issue that request for proposal, they'll have to meet the ocean mining standards, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, the only comment that I'd have on this, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, Larry, as well as what Dan shared. It's a challenge, and this is one of the unique spots we face as a city and as a planning commission, where we have an opportunity right now to think about how do we prepare this land for what our intent is in the comprehensive plan, and it is laid out as light industrial in the comprehensive plan, and it's currently zoned that way. And we have a unique opportunity to do it in a way that isn't going to cost the city a whole bunch of money. In fact, it might be the opposite way. We don't know. I mean, but at the very least, we're not going to have the expense to get rid of it, to get rid of that in order to prepare it for that. However, there's risk, right? And that's always the risk we take, is that in 5 to 7 years, some of us may not be sitting here anymore, and there may be different things that happen, and those are the risks I think, Larry, you're referring to, is what happens. And I think, you know, we have to decide now, what do we think the right thing is? Do we take the risk and share what our intent is now for future boards and, you know, commissions and councils? Or do we not take the risk and then have to figure out how to take on that expense? And that's the decision that's really before us. So with that said, I would entertain a motion.
Question,
Yeah.
is there a current need for what would be mined?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody want to make a motion on this one?
Mr. Chair, I'll make the motion. Based on the staff report, the Development Authority is requesting to rezone the former Cleveland property from an I-1 to an I-2. The Development Authority intends to issue a request for proposal to mine 500,000 cubic yards of gravel from the property prior to expanding the industrial park. The gravel mining is not permitted in an I-1 district. It is permitted as a conditional use in an I-2 district. So I'd like to make the motion that we approve the rezoning and add that the intent to rezone it back to an I-1 is followed through.
Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
All right, so we have a second from, we have a motion from Liz and a second from Andrew. Any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you for your comments tonight, Larry, and the discussion from the commission. All right, let's move on to item 3B, and I'll call to order a public hearing to give consideration to a variance to allow a 50 by 64 addition to a building with a 19-foot setback instead of the required 40-foot setback at 939 Cormorant Avenue for Satter Holdings LLC. Larry.
Yeah, this is a request from Great North Pizza to put an addition on their building and to have a, 17-foot setback instead of the
19-foot
required
setback.
40 feet. And the reason that they're asking for that is that their rear lot line, it has a very sharp angle to it. It isn't squared off. And they're also adjacent to a wetland and a stormwater pond, so the setback issue is not highly visible from the street or from anywhere. And so I'm recommending approval subject to the conditions that are listed, or to the findings of fact that are listed in your report. Would you like me to read those?
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read the conditions once so we get that out of the way and everybody can hear it.
Okay. Staff recommends approval of the variance based on the following findings. 1, the variance is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the ordinance. The adjacent land is wetland, and just on the other side of our east property line is a retention pond. This variance would not cause any safety, utility, or privacy concerns. Number 2, the variance is consistent with the comprehensive plan as it is an industrial use in an industrial district. The addition would not look out of place and would aesthetically blend in with the neighboring properties. Number 3, the proposal puts the property to use in a reasonable manner as it will allow an addition with a 19-foot rear yard setback adjacent to a stormwater holding pond. They are not able to add on any other side of the building due to property lines and space needs for semi-traffic. They originally chose to build the production facility on the north side of the property rather than on the longer south side to avoid north winds with the loading docks, as they are located within our production area. Number 4, the circumstances are unique to the property. The east property line is at a diagonal. If it were a bit more squared off, they would not require a variance for the 40-foot setback. And 5, the variance will maintain the essential character of the neighborhood. A variance for the setback in this case will not alter the overall look and feel of the industrial park. It would not stand out in comparison to other properties in the vicinity.
All right, thanks, Larry. Is there anyone here that would like to make a comment to the commission about this one? Any public comments? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for discussion amongst the commission, or a motion. Any discussion, or anyone wanna make a motion?
I motion to approve.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the variance. Is there a second?
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right. 3C. I will now call to order a public hearing to give consideration to a preliminary and final plat approval of Broadlawn Estates Second Edition at 26208 North Tower Road and 1774 North Tower Road, Long Pine Estates LLC, Raymond Reading. All right, Larry.
Okay, this is a request for a preliminary and final plat. And the property is at 1774 North Tower Road. Basically, part of this is already in the city, and another portion of it will need to be annexed into the city, and the annexation hearing will be at the April council meeting. So the owner is requesting preliminary and final plat approval, which will be granted after the annexation is completed. Preliminary and final plat approval should be subject to the following conditions. First, that the owner provide any utility easements required by the city. Two, that the owner provide any stormwater easements required by the city. Three, that the owner pay the required $1,656 park dedication fee. Four, that the owner sign a development agreement for this plat prior to the city signing the plat. And five, that the property be annexed to the city prior to the city signing the final plat. The next item that's coming up on your agenda is also rezoning of a portion of this property, or of the platted area of this property.
Okay. All right. Go ahead if you'd like.
Adam Geiger with Meadowlands Surveying here with Raymond Redding. Yeah, this is a two-lot plat with the existing house on it and a shed on the other one. The piece that is being or it's in the process of being annexed that is submitted, and then the rezone would be to R2, I believe. So, if you have any questions, we're happy to try to answer them.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Any other public comments on this one? Any further comments? Any further comments? All right, hearing none, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and open this up for discussion with the commission. Up to and including a motion. Please, not everyone at once.
Thinking.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 3D, I will call to order a public hearing to give consideration to the rezoning from RA Agricultural Residence District, I can't say that, Agriculture Residence District, R2, 1 and 2 Family Residence District for Broadlawn Estates Second Edition at 26208 North Tower Road and 1774 North Tower Road, Long Pine Estates, Raymond Reading. Would you like to add anything, Larry?
So the comprehensive plan shows this area as either open space or residential, so the R2 zoning would be very appropriate, and they're just asking to rezone these two lots that are in the Broadlawn Estates Second Edition plat.
Okay. Would you like to say anything else? Are there any other comments about this? Any other comments? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up to the commission for discussion up to and including a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning application that's in front of us to R2.
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 3E, I'll call to order a public hearing to give consideration to a conditional use permit to allow a planned unit development for a self-storage facility with enclosed outdoor storage at 1397 Wenner Road for Menard, Inc. Larry.
Okay, this is essentially an amended conditional use permit for the Menards storage facility. In the past, we approved a storage facility that had 290-some enclosed units and approximately 80-some outdoor storage areas. Now they're requesting 392 enclosed areas and only 4 outdoor areas. Basically, all of the conditions remain the same. The only thing that's changing is that we're approving a different site plan and a different configuration. And it's all in accordance with what they did in the past, and I would recommend approval.
Great, thanks. I'm assuming this is the last one, so you must be here for that. I am. Well, welcome. If you could say your name and,
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Pat Wewell. I'm a real estate representative for Menard Inc. 5101 Menard Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 54703.
great, thank you.
As Larry explained, we're here essentially requesting reapproval of our self-storage project that we got approved in late 2023. This is just on ground next to our Menard store. Functionally, the project remains the same, just the unit counts change. As we were designing and developing this, we waffled over how we wanted it to look, and then we had some stormwater and snow concerns, so we started switching out layouts. And, you know, too many pieces, there are too many hands in the cookie jar, and everybody wanted something different. So we ended up with a facility that did not meet the unit requirements that we had approved last time, so we're coming back for reapproval of this project. Functionally, everything else remains the same. We'll operate the same way with the store and the corporate offices in Eau Claire. Gate to get into the facility, secure because the tenants need codes that they can't get until they rent. All those things that we outlined last time will remain the same.
Sure, great.
Any questions?
Don't have any right now, but if we do, we'll call you back up. How's that sound? Adam, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay, well then I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing and open it up for discussion to the commission.
Mr. Chair and Larry, I just have one question. Larry, is this an amendment of the original conditional use permit that was approved in 2023, or are we approving a new?
We are actually approving a new one because of the age of the old one and the amount of time it might take for them to get their building permit. It just seemed prudent to issue a new conditional use permit. But it is essentially an amended conditional use permit.
Thank you.
Will it have a bigger footprint then?
Can you guys make sure
It-
that you
it
pull
is
those
the
mics up,
same
because otherwise the
footprint.
recording won't pick it up.
It is the same footprint.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the conditional use permit that was presented and recommended by the staff conditions that were outlined.
Okay, we
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, that's the end of the planning the public hearings. Now we're on to some business. So 4A, consideration to the final plat of Marty's Acres at 2577 US Highway 10. Don Martindam.
This is the 4-lot commercial plat, and I think we should recommend approval of this plat, subject to the following things: that the owner determine how the assessments are to be divided and provide that information to the city prior to the city signing the final plat. 2, that the owner be advised there's no service lateral available on Lot 4. And 3, that the owner be advised that Lot 4 may need to tap directly into the city's water and sewer main at its own expense and may have an assessment for the service line east of Lot 4 on Long Lake Road. And with those conditions, I would recommend approval.
Okay. Any discussion? Questions? Motion?
There's the plat.
Mr. Chair and Larry, I just have one, it's assumed based on the plat that we're looking at, that they're gonna access each of the individual lots from the road, correct? Because there will be no condition of road development within that.
No, they are not developing any roads. They are on existing roads, and they will access on those existing roads.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Or would someone else like to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, 4B, consideration to the matter of annexing property in Detroit Township of a 1/2 acre more or less and rezoning the tract R2, 1 and 2 family residential district at 26208 North Tower Road, Long Pine Estates.
So this is the annexation that I talked about earlier for Raymond Redding and his project. So we're going to be annexing a piece of property that was sold to the previous owner of the property from Detroit Township. So are you if you're familiar with where Detroit Township has their town hall out on 131, they sold off a portion of that lot to the east, and that's what's going to be annexed. The rest of it around there is already annexed. So as part of the annexation, it will be zoned R2, and then we'll be rezoning the plat of, what's it called, Broadlawn Estates Second, and that will take care of this issue.
Okay.
So the council will hold a public hearing for that annexation at the April meeting.
And really, it's just a technicality.
This is just an information item only. We don't need to take any action.
Okay. Thank you for that update, Larry. All right, does anyone else from the commission want to?
So, Larry, I have a few questions. I'm sorry, you guys, I'm sure you want to go, but I do have a few questions.
We're doing pretty good on time considering how many public hearings.
Considering, yep, you are correct.
You guys are very efficient.
I have a couple of questions on the variance and conditional use permit section, and a couple of questions on updates on projects. I know Broadway Welding, we've talked about it. They're due to expire May 14th. Any update?
They have been informed that their conditional use permit is going to expire, or their variances are going to expire. They have not come forward with anything. When they do, I'm going to ask them for a very detailed explanation of why and a schedule for when, because I think their opportunity to keep extending this is probably running thin.
We gotta be 5 years into this by now.
Yeah.
Well, and I think he's running close to the Spillman. Yeah. Okay, so I appreciate
We'll
that.
need a
Thank
new
you.
owner to get it done, or what?
Right. Lakeview on Detroit, the one, we have a couple of items there that had conditional use. Now, any updates on the Lakeview project on Detroit? I know it's still for, Chris, am I right? Is it still for sale? It's that Westlake Drive, and you know how the property runs to the back?
That property has sold, and so I
Oh.
don't really know what their plans are
Okay,
forward.
so it's likely we could just say your conditional use is expired.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Menards, I think we just addressed that, since that's been on.
We just addressed that.
Yep. Let's see. Providence Lakes.
Provident Lakes has been held up because they had to deal with MinDOT on the access,
That's right.
but they did get the access issue resolved.
Oh.
They are going to be removing trees next week.
Have they applied for land disturbance permit then?
They have.
Oh, okay.
They're doing everything in order, so the first step is to remove the trees. The next step will be to apply for a building permit for actual construction.
Okay. Thank you for that update. Great to hear that.
Yes.
I think I only had, bear with me, you guys, only one other question. Oh, Chad Wendell and the port on Little Detroit. Some of you may not be aware of this, but Kelsey was going to ask Chad Wendell for a potential easement for the snowmobile trail that currently runs through that property. But do we have an update? Has that property moved in any direction?
They have not done anything yet.
Okay.
So we're still waiting, and I'm not sure where Kelsey's at on the snowmobile access, because it gets a little awkward based on
I know.
where it can go and how it has to be. He's not sure how useful it would be. So
Okay. Do you mind?
I will follow up on that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And then you haven't seen anything from Chad Wendell move on that particular project? So we could be another 2 years
No.
down the
No,
pipeline?
no, I think it's more imminent than that.
Oh, okay, you do.
I do. I
If you
think we'll
recall, his
see
original
something.
plan said he was basically gonna do it over 3 years.
It did, it was a phased approach.
I think we'll see something on that though yet this year.
You do?
I do.
Okay, okay. That's the last one I had. I do see that the land disturbance permit was updated, and it looks like Gooden and Company is moving out to the industrial park.
Yes, they are making the move.
They're making the move. Well, congratulations, Development Authority. That's all I had. Thank you for bearing with me.
Not a problem. That's what we're here for. Thank you. All right, anyone else from the commission have anything they'd like to review? Okay, with that said, then I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting and see you all in another month.